Good evening, good morning, good night, no matter where in the world you might be. It's a little bit of a twist today. It's Stateside Squad episode 1 of the season. And there is no better person to kick this off with than this fine woman. Let's go, Gunners.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
I am sweating like swine in California, and she's looking fine from New Orleans. Welcome to the show. Arsenal America board member, events guru, Gooner Gals founder, and my friend, Miss Tiffany Campo. Welcome back to Squad Central.
Thanks so much. I'm honestly only as cool as I am because in New Orleans we have really good air conditioners.
Yeah, our house in California does not have any air conditioning. Hence why I look like I'm sweating like swine, as you can see.
That's why I have to stay in a hotel if I visit you.
Yeah. Although Vinny and Vespa can fan you, no problem. You know, they'll hook you up, they'll sort you out. Good evening, everyone. I've noticed, wow, we've got some of our UK listeners dedicated right here. Lynn, Demsek, Mark, burning the midnight oil with us. I love it. Good evening, squaddies. Most of you will be listening on replay. I threw them through a loop today, Tiff, when I announced the time of the show. And I said, get used to it because we're going to be doing a lot more Stateside Squad stuff live. And you and I have been trying to get this show since the US tour ended. But Tiff, you needed, I don't know, like how many days did you need to convalesce after that insanity?
Well, unfortunately, I got sick as part of the insanity. So I ended up needing
not COVID sick.
Yes, first time in 2.5 years.
Oh, wow. It got you. Yeah. The Rona got you.
Technically, it got my husband. And then about 5 days later, it got me. But you know, sad as it is, like nobody wants to be exposed to it. But I was honestly glad that it wasn't me first because I was with the team and everybody from Highbury Squad. And if I thought that I'd exposed them, I would have felt really badly. But no, everybody was safe. So it ended up taking about 3 weeks to convalesce because of that. But yeah.
So just so you know, squaddies, we've been trying to do this since the tour ended. And Tiff, you're feeling good though? You're all good?
Oh, yeah, good to go.
Okay. We've got Italy in the house. We've got Singapore in the house. I did get some sun. We've got Hertzie in the house. Have you had another child since the last time we spoke, Hertzie? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, these times, absolutely. Crazy times. If you want to follow Tiff, you can do so. By the way, maybe you guys don't know, and I'm going to have her explain this a little bit. So everyone knows you're not a lot of people know, but a lot of our listeners know that you're a board member and you're the events organizer for Arsenal America. But what I want some folks to know is that you're the founder of Gooner Gals. So before we get to the US tour and some of your insights, some player stuff, fly on the wall stuff, can you let the folks that don't know, put them in the know?
Sure. So maybe 5 years ago or so, we were having individual conversations, just in smaller chats between female supporters. And, it was just kind of a light bulb that went off to say, like, if we're having these individual sort of female supporter discussions, I bet there's a lot more out there that are happening as well. And so I just, talked to the people closest to me about it and then put together a group. And I mean, like overnight, we had like 500 women who were all for Gooner Gals. And, we have like match day discussions, and we have the group on Facebook is privately for women. It's just a space. We travel together. We, if you don't know another woman in the city that you're traveling to, then you have somebody to link up to. These people have roomed together to come to Gooner Gras or to go to London on one of my trips there. So yeah, it's just become this sort of coalition of women. We have the Twitter handle as well, and then moving toward Discord. now. So I would love for certain channels to, like, if we did a Discord, that way you can do like certain channels that are private and some that can be open to all of our male supporters who would love to jump into the conversation. But for now, we only have the private channels. So it's just been a really awesome thing. Like, it turned into its own little community. So it's been great.
Yeah, and someone is actually making me well done, Demsec, who's actually created our fantasy league, which is to the chagrin of Mr. Magic Mike, who hates fantasy leagues. But there's a lot of our listeners that enjoy the fantasy league, the Gooner Gras as well, which happens every February in New Orleans. So you've got it. You've got Arsenal America. You've got the Gooner Girls. You've got Gooner Gras. You've got a job. You've got a family.
We're probably missing something. Yeah.
Missing something for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's busy, but I think I'm also a pussyfooter. If you ever see any of my Mardi Gras stuff, that's the other big one. I'm like, there's something else. Oh, I teach people how to dance. That's right.
Wait, what kind of dancing?
Parade dancing or performance dancing. We do all sorts of.
How did I know this or did I not know this?
You've probably seen me in a pink corset on some of my pictures. That's
yeah, with your girls and stuff. Yeah.
So that is that group is called Pussyfooters. It is the oldest New Orleans female group in Mardi Gras. And we've got about 150 women. We do events year round for charity fundraisers, and we do we obviously march in all of the Mardi Gras parades. So it's exhausting, but it's so fun. And I
wish I had a picture to go, because now I know I've seen pictures. I wish I had a picture to go. By the way, if you guys can hear some rattling in the background, we got some work going on in the background of the house, so I do apologize.
You're lucky I don't. They finished my roof at about noon today.
How did that go, by the way? Because you had to do a whole
it was mad. It was madness. So that's Pussyfooters.
Yes.
If I can.
Better than the Pussycat Dolls, I would say.
Well, because we're also, real untrained, non-athletic people for the most part. We're all actually professional women. There's attorneys. I'm an urban planner, doctors.
I love it.
You name it. Yeah. So anyway, I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats and sometimes feathers.
I love it. So you've got some of your squad in the house. We've got Jared, who loves the collection.
Hi.
We've got, hold on one second. I have to put this comment up. One of my girls and yours too. We got MK from the Arsenal Los Angeles group. We have also, let's just see. I'm going to go back up here, Tiff. Just give me 1 second. We got Iceland in the house. We also have Singapore in the house. We got Italy in the house. I do believe we have Norway in the house as well. So we got quite a few of our American crew here. We got Demian in the house, who is a huge supporter of our Arsenal women and one of my co-host on the Arsenal Women show. He just did an amazing gig with Miley Cyrus at Lollapalooza. Did I pronounce that correctly, Tiff? You're much more in the know than me.
Not on Lollapalooza.
All right, let's get stuck.
Ask me about Arsenal events. I can do that all day.
Let's do that because you guys absolutely smashed it this summer. It's still the talk of the town.
Time out. Someone just said, do the US have Tottenham supporters? And not anybody good. So
we got Belgium in the house as well. Wait, where is that? Let's see. Tottenham. Oh, it's Don Juan. Question for Tiff. Do Tottenham have fans in America? Who cares?
Yeah, but we let them sit outside sometimes.
Jeez.
Got my little bourbon.
Let me tell you something. We got Canada in the house as well. This could become the Stateside Squad happy hour show. I'm feeling.
It's turning into ours.
Totally. MK says we do, and we 86 them out of our pub. I love it. North Carolina via Trinidad in the house as well. Love you guys. Okay, nice. Welcome. And to those listening on iTunes, Spotify, and Acast, thanks so much for joining. For those listening on replay, thank you. Hope you enjoyed our 9 minutes of nonsense right here. But
it's already been 9.
Absolutely, yeah. So I got a ton of these,
Yeah.
Tiff.
Yeah.
I love the us. So
that's Jeff.
That's Jeff, right?
Jeff made all that stuff for us. Yeah, isn't it great?
Oh my God, it's so great. So then I started retweeting it, and then all of a sudden I'm getting it from like Chicago. I'm getting it from Miami. I'm getting it from like pretty much every single city in the United States. And I absolutely loved it. The tour this summer, you've been on a few so far. Was this the best ever? Was this the best one yet? Or have they talk me through it? Really?
Okay, so just starting back at the beginning a little bit, we did the tour 2019 as well. It was sort of the old crew. You know, Sue was there. We had some of the old travel and events people from Arsenal there. Mark couldn't come on that. Mark Brindle couldn't come on that one. And so,
wait, is it Mark's birthday today?
It is. No, it was yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Okay.
Happy birthday, Mark!
Happy birthday, Mark!
But so yeah, we just to kind of reflect between the two, that one was very it was very planned. It was very professional, to the tune of like, we would set up these huge tents with the club, and then they'd say, bring us 300, 400 people on a Tuesday at 2:00.
Is this the 2019 or this one?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
2019.
2019. So they did that in Los Angeles. We did it there, and then we flew over to the East Coast, and we did some things in DC and Charlotte. In DC, they did something similar. It was, hey, can you get 300 people to come on a Tuesday at 2:00 out to the University of Maryland, which, if you're unfamiliar, is in the middle of fucking nowhere. So this is PG-13, right? I'm okay. I get one if it's PG-13, right?
You're Tiff.
So it was the middle of nowhere, and it was killing me. And so I rented buses, and I'm like literally busing people out to these places just to, you know, really like be able to offer our supporters as much exposure as possible when they were making it really hard. And there just, the communication was very quiet. So this year, you know, since then, I've done a couple of road trips where we take people over to the Arsenal. And I think through that, on those trips, I always make a trip over to Highbury House and talk to Mark and talk to some other people. And we have a charity event at the Arsenal Supporters Clubhouse there outside of the stadium. We, you know, go to lunch. We buy everybody lunch. We do a Legends tour. We do all these like fun things. We hit all the, you know, like Arsenal pubs around there. And then we usually try to tag on a women's match at the end. So, oh, look at my friend. So at the end, looking back at this tour, and I've thought about this so much because the vibe was so different. This time, as soon as I knew something, so I'm going to tell you, there were people in Baltimore and in Orlando that knew about this tour in March. I learned about it in November, and then was an absolute go as of February. But of course, there's, you know, you don't talk about it. There's very strict rules about not letting the word out. Even when Vinay, that guy was talking about it at this supporters open house thing that they did, right? And then everybody started posting about it on Twitter, and my WhatsApp is blowing up, and I'm like, maybe it's in Wyoming. I don't know. What do you think? You know, and then I would joke that like, you know, Chelsea wouldn't be permitted to come over, so we were going to have to play it on a barge. You know, because they were going to have to take like a Freightliner over because they didn't have the money to travel.
Bless them.
So because I was able to, with restrictions, but because I was able to discuss the tour with the Charm City Gooners and all the guys there, and then Orlando Gooners as early as I was, we had some really, you know, the guys in Baltimore know their city. And we originally had this Guinness event set up. And look at those guys.
Wrong picture. Wait, no, I got it.
That's at M&T. There they
we go.
are. That's Simon and his wife and kid and Mike. And oh my gosh, they're such a good crew. So they, we were going to set up this, this brewery thing. And then it was kind of far out. It was near the practice stadium. And then in the end, that got canceled. The entire open training was canceled because of conditions at the pitch. Completely out of their control. No one knew what to do with it. And I always say, like, everybody wants my job until something gets canceled.
Yep, totally.
Because nobody wants to have to tell 150 people who are, you know, have waited all this time and are bringing their kids and all of that, that the open training is canceled. And that's always hard, especially when it's, you know, earlier in the day before there's something else. But so the events that we were able to have were very locally sourced. Some of the best venues I've ever worked with. Just made it so easy, and they were so welcoming everywhere we went. But there wasn't this like expectation to get 300 warm bodies in there. It was, it's actually a quite, you know, small amount of people. So we put it out to Arsenal America members. You know, we have a very small amount of, exactly, see how cool that is. They actually did that the way that they did it because the pub itself, if you see on the outside, is very blue. And they were very concerned with how blue it was. So the idea was to paint the place red. So they, really did it up there.
And this looks cool too.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
So the guy that literally traveled all over with those things, his name is James. He and Phil are two of the, you know, Swiss Army knives from Highbury House. They can literally make anything happen. We sent over, things were being shipped across the US. So I sent the Arsenal America banner. I sent the giant, much larger than this one, the giant scarf banner that they had hanging in there. That Highbury neon sign was actually sent from the Milwaukee pub called Highbury.
Wow.
He packed it and shipped it to them, and they got it back to him. Just because literally she saw it in a Kate, who's like over all of this, saw it in a picture and said, okay, this is crazy, on WhatsApp. Can you get that for me? And I said, yeah, let me call him. Well, can we do this? Yeah, let me call him. They literally at one point called me and said, do you know anybody that works in security? And I was like, yep, give me a minute. You know, so I think after doing this all of these years, we just have somebody that I would recommend for like every service to do with events or travel. So anyway, our events were absolutely packed out this time. They were smaller. Do I wish that I could have given more people access to them? Absolutely. But the fact that they were smaller, it just was such a family vibe. Everybody had a great time. You know, there was, oh, there we are. The way that they were rolling things out the entire time was really sort of like pumping up the entire catalog of events, right? So like, as this is happening, they've got Frimmy putting out his daily diary. They're announcing the away kit there. And all of this stuff is centered on US supporters. They put out Jill and Allie's video. They did the Instagram thing with the group in Phoenix. And these were all the contacts that I was working with through Weirdo, who did the PR for the group. So this is a big discombobulated story, but I will say that the difference was that the old regime at Arsenal, coming from under different management completely, were wonderful people, but the environment there was very much gatekeeper. Everything was held very close to the vest, and just, you know, you didn't discuss things. And so even when it came to like, you know, it's not helping you that I can't plan things because I'm not in on a lot of it. And then I have to plan it on my own. And then we're having to flip things around so that you understand what's happening. This wasn't like that at all. This was a team of about 4 people plus me. And we together planned it. The local groups I worked with, but Mark also reached out to them. So just in terms of them really being invested in the experience of the supporters on this tour was above and beyond anything I've ever seen from Arsenal. Anything.
So much bigger than when the LA tour. It seemed to me like it was just bigger. I mean, and also what kind of to recognize, I think the club understand and know how big the fans are in the United States.
They're learning very quickly.
I think though this time, Tiff, it was on a totally different level. And for them to want to announce our away kit launch in Orlando solidified to me their understanding of just the enormity of the Arsenal America branches, the fans. And I thought it was an honor for the US fans who for so long, I think when you look at other clubs even, and someone mentioned Tottenham and Chelsea, and yes, and I covered Real Madrid here and Juventus and stuff like that. But there's something different about, I think, the group of all of you combined together that led to this moment, even Aston being involved in it, you guys organizing the away kit, the away kit launch, sorry, in the United States. That was really big. It was the huge. Little Islington thing.
So the entire time that we were in Baltimore, I was at the team hotel every day, working on 87 different things. And I remember we had the party on Friday night. We had Ray, we had Gunnersaurus. You've never seen so many adults so excited for Gunnersaurus in a bar. They were like, "You got Gunnersaurus in a bar," and I was like, "Yeah, we did." And that poor guy, the poor dinosaur, having to go up and down those really old, ancient
in the heat.
The stairs in these old waterfront pubs. It was so funny. But anyway, but the very next day I went back to the hotel. I had an interview with Ray, and I was doing the visually impaired voiceover for the commercial. And because they love my American accent, which is hilarious to me because I could just sit and listen to most of them talk all day long. And, I think most of us probably hate our own voices for the most part. But we were walking across sort of this back area when I was walking over to meet Ray, and they said, the guy who was with me said, "So we've had really incredible feedback from the party." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I have too. That's great." And he was like, "No, really, really high, really positive feedback from the bosses are very excited about the events." And I was like, "Are we
talking like Vinay, Kroenke's? We're going up that ladder, right?"
I didn't ask, and I'm going to tell you why. My first and foremost person that I am responsible to is every single Arsenal supporter in the US. And as long as every single one of them was very excited that they had these events and that they were seeing their team play in the US, my job was done. If everybody at Arsenal is excited about it, very high up, that's a bonus to me. So I just said, "Well, that's really nice." And I'm looking at him like, you work for them. So that's amazing that your bosses are very happy. But for me, I just want them to come back and invest in this supportership, and really be here and reach out to the supporters, and not just here, but everywhere, because I recognize that the supporters in London feel very neglected when they see, these teams go overseas and suddenly they're approachable. And in London, it just doesn't happen. So, there's a lot to do with really being a firm supporter of supporters, if you will. So I was very excited to hear that. And I heard great feedback about Little Islington and about all of the, they sent me my video for the voiceover, and they were like, "Oh, now you're going to need an agent," and I'm like, "No, now I'm going to need a job. So I'm not doing 6 of them at one time."
I love it.
Yeah, it's, they've got a great group of people there right now. They all looked at people who weren't there for the first tour, looked at the things from the first tour and learned from them without it being like, "This is my first time. This is my first show. I'm going to do my thing." They still went back and learned from these things. And I think when you join a new company, that can be very rare. to use this institutional knowledge, and they did. And so there were things like, if you remember when we had the tailgate in Los Angeles, and the team bus drove by, and kept going, and I was like, stop and wave at people, like, this is insane.
Tiff,
and
this is really
they brought that to me. And said, we saw a video of the bus driving by. We don't ever want those kinds of things to happen again. And I was like, okay, then we're starting from a great place.
So Tiff, you know, when people talk about a culture change, we talk about it a lot with Super Kev. And in fact, I have a very special little message for you right now, which I'm going to play. But before I do, I want to add this too, because, and then you can address it after you see this little message for you. When people are talking about the DNA and the profile of our club and how our culture kind of was in the shitter, really, and we've had to reinvent ourselves. And I feel like, as critical as I've been of Arteta as a manager on the pitch in the first 2 seasons, 8th, losing semi-final Europa League against the man you faced, fine, but the job that you inherit with Edu in order to turn around that culture and get us back to a place where we can fall in love with players again, where the bus doesn't just drive by on the tour. And I was there at that time, and it was very different. The players were different. Everything was different. And I think that, in fact, I want you to answer this before I play Kev's video, because it's very important what you just said. When people can see the players we're signing, the culture that's being transformed on the pitch, what you're saying to me is even more fundamentally important, because what you're saying is now the people behind the scenes get it more, and there's a connectivity more, and they understand more. And I'm sure, you know, there's pickles, there's probably miscommunications. I'm sure you wanted to pull your hair out at many times during the tour. But the fact that they're a little bit more engaged is now being translated even at that level. Is that a fair statement?
Incredibly engaged. You know, the people, you know, so I don't think that everybody understands necessarily that Arsenal is run from 2 separate places. There's Highbury House, and then there's the team, basically, right? All of your technical is over here, and then Highbury House is your operational.
Right.
Everybody that I worked with at Highbury House, who really run the thing, they're not about running the pitch. They're running everything else. And they were so engaged. They brought Mark over, which I think was incredibly important. I mean, you did a supporters tour 3 years ago, and you didn't bring the supporters liaison. It's one person on the plane. And they did. And Mark was taken aback by everything. You know, he did the walk up in Baltimore, and then so Arsenal had given me the seats that my husband and I were in, and so we sat with all the Highbury people. No, we weren't sitting with like Josh. We sat with like, you know, those of us who work for this, right? And he said, I was quite emotional. That was a hell of a walk up. Wow. And I'm like, I mean, Mark, you got to think, like, some people wait their whole lives for them to come over. Like, I think we take international travel for granted when you're able to do it. But, you know, I didn't travel internationally until I was older than I'm willing to say. But I had children. You know, we took our kids and went for 7 weeks. Was the first time I ever went overseas. I went for 7 weeks. And that was in 2014. So all of my watching was all about chat rooms. It was all about a Satanta box and having to like really work to even get the feed for football. So we've sort of earned it, I think, in a lot of ways.
It's a once in a lifetime for so many, right? Like
massive. You know, you're not a season ticker and the season ticket holder and clock in. You know, like this is your shot. And the people, I mean, there were people who there were a lot of people who this was their first time that they ever saw Arsenal play in person. And, you know, for people who will say like, oh, it's a friendly or it's this, can you imagine that you're finally getting to see Arsenal? And do you think you give a shit that it's a friendly? Like your team that you adore and that you watch every week is right in front of you for the first time in your life. And that was a massive thing for so many people. And I think that that's the piece that is sticking at Arsenal now. It's not just that they have supporters here, it's that the supporter movement here is monumental and that they have a real opportunity to connect with the people here. This wasn't a difficult thing. I mean, I was working 20, 30 hours a week and I'm a volunteer. You know, we love these things. Give us the opportunity to be there for the team. And I think that a lot of what was happening before, aside from the fact that the club weren't making good moves, was that we also didn't feel heard. And now I don't think that we can say that. I think, you know, there have been things where the club was in the wrong and where they've done some right things. And we've, you know, either put them in their place or applauded that. But when it comes to the team and actually connecting to supporters, there's been sort of a rope on how far they could pull that along. And I don't think it's there anymore. I think that your rope is now a bungee.
Wow. That's a really good line, by the way. You know, what I felt was there's a swell of newness in our support from all corners of the earth. We've noticed it on our show from last season. I noticed it when I was in London, home and away last season. I noticed it here living vicariously through you guys. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there this season.
You're just going to have to stay with me next time.
Yeah, definitely. Through the conversations that we were having on the ground with everybody. And then what I think happened is the home support got behind the team. And I think it's because of the players you can root for and fall in love with again. The away supporters were just ridiculously phenomenal. And then you come to the US for that tour. And I think the swell carried across the pond, but then the US fans just cranked it up and took it to another level. The club saw it. All of the most important people were there to see it. The Arsenal America group just absolutely smashed it. And that, I think, translated to people like Lee Judges can't stop talking about the tour, can't shut him up, right? So you got the key.
I mean, that's just an occupational hazard.
Of course, you can never shut Gianni Judges up. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that he just couldn't believe it, because before he was a little bit like, oh, and I think Lee's always been supportive, but there's a lot of fans that think it's the fans that go through the turnstiles, right?
Can I just tell you really quickly, this is the funniest thing. The first night that we were there in Baltimore, I'd gone over to the club. We got in late the night before, so the next day I'm very tired. But I'd gone over, we were going to be shooting a video. We weren't shooting a video. Like Aston was still there doing his kind of stuff, but there was a lot of confusion about what I was doing there. So I always have my like iPad and whatever, and I'm pulling together all the door lists and all this stuff for supporters while I'm standing there. And so I'm kind of all over the hotel and they're still introducing me to people, and people remembered me from the last tour. And they were filming the commercials like all around me. So the players would come in and sit down and we're talking. And, you know, I ended up like talking to Saka for a long time. And Saliba was really, really nice. And he and I talked for a while. And Odegaard, who absolutely loves Spain. And so do I. So we had this conversation. Anyway, at the end of the day, we had gone over to the venue. We're decorating. I'm just still going on like no sleep. So that night we go over to the pub that the Charm City Gooners go to for matches. And Mike had his podcast there. And I get up to go to the bar because I'm going to go and pay our tab because I'm exhausted. And I can tell from Stuart's face even, and James, that this is about to go on for a long time and I'm exhausted. So I'm just going to at least close out so that when I can sneak out, I can sneak out. And somebody from Arsenal, I swear to God, I still don't know who it was. One of the guys was there from Highbury House or from the club in some capacity. And he grabbed me and he said, "Oh my God, can we get a picture?" In a very thick British accent, which I will not embarrass myself with. And I was like, sure.
Can I do it for you? Hello, can we get a picture?
Yes. And I'm holding my credit card in my hand, exhausted. And I'm like, of course. And he grabs somebody else who's also with Arsenal and he says, "Get get in this fucking picture. Do you know who this is? This is Tiffany. And he's handing somebody else the phone. Granted, the other two guys are both looking at me like, who the fuck did he just say she was? And I'm just like, I don't know what's happening right now. And so later, I asked Mark Brindle, I was like, how many other Arsenal people were there? And he was like, there were several, and most of them were looking for you.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, well, they've got pictures, but I don't know who they are at all.
Isn't that the beauty of it? Isn't that the beauty of it?
It became, this is the person that's well, I think this is the person that's throwing all the parties. She's got the alcohol.
She can get us in.
This way.
She's got the booze and she's got the tickets to get us in. We're going with her. We're following Tiff. No doubt about it.
It was great fun. I mean, my access was honestly ridiculous. And they paid for me to go to Baltimore. They paid for the hotel, the flight, everything, because they knew I would be working the whole time that I was there. But to have them appreciate that, I mean, honestly,
but you had to take PTO to do it. You took holiday from your
but when you consider that when they came in 2019, I did 13 days cross country and I paid for all of it myself.
Yep, I remember
everything. The flights, the hotels, the Airbnb, everything was on me. So for the club, it's one thing for Arsenal America to say like, okay, we need to start supporting some things. But for the club to be like, we see you, come up here. I appreciate that.
That's what I wanted to get at in terms of people understanding. This is why I've been dying to do the show with Tiff, is because we've all been very critical about what is the culture of our club. Where are we going? What are we doing? But there's definitely been a shift in gears in the last 18 months. And even on this US tour, just listening to what Tiff is saying about how the club treated her, how, everything happened on the ground, the support, launching a kit here. The culture is definitely evolving and changing. So I'm going to play this special message.
With where they're going,
a special message for you from this legend. All right, here we go. You guys ready? Even when he's not here, he's here.
Am I?
Hi, Squaddy, Sophie, Tiffany. How you all doing? I hope you're well. Hi, Tiff. Listen, I've got 2 questions for you, Tiff. One was, could you let us know how special it was to have the Arsenal out in the US this year and to see everything, how it went down, doing the advert, Little Islington, and seeing Aston involved, etc. What was it like for you? And number 2, what's your thoughts on the new signings that have come into the team, and we seem to be stepping up? Look after yourself. Take good care. Lots of love to you all. Sophie, Tiffany, and Squaddies. At ease, Squaddies. At ease.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love Super Kev?
I just love him. I was the first US person that he did on his little private podcast that he was doing there for a little while. And that was like, Kevin Campbell just asked me to be on his podcast. Not a group podcast, not something I'd done before. Kevin's doing one-on-ones with people, and he just invited me to do it. And I think I ran down the hall like my ass was on fire to tell my husband about it. And I was so excited about it. Oh, he's great. And his love of like reaching out. And I will say, if I've learned one thing about certainly it makes sense that it's all of the legends that we've been in contact with, because if they weren't really into it, we probably wouldn't have the contact with them. But the people, Charlie George, Ray Parlor, Kevin Campbell, those people absolutely adore the supporters. They are still fans themselves. And I think that they connect to that, and it just means the world. Ray Parlor, I don't know what I expected to find with Ray Parlor. I've met him before, but it was always when he was like next to the stage signing things. Even though I hosted the event, I still only met him when I had him sign my flag.
Did he have a pint of lager in his hand?
Not that time. Okay. This time, Ray Parlor was like my best friend. there was the night of the party. This is just my own little anecdote that I loved. They asked me to man him when I took him downstairs to meet everybody, which, by the way, is a task because everybody loves Ray. Everybody wants a picture. Everybody wants to buy him a drink. Everybody wants to do a shot. I don't know where he puts it, but he didn't turn anybody down.
How many shots do you think he did?
He did at least 4 car bombs downstairs, at least 4. He had already done one upstairs. And then when we got back up there, there was 1, maybe 2 more done upstairs. So at some point, I'm still with him. And I said, look, my husband's downstairs, but I've got some friends in from New Orleans and I haven't seen all of our supporters. So I'm going to go and hang out with my husband. And he goes, where's your husband? Well, he's
right
downstairs. I said, yeah. I said, well, he's downstairs with our friends. And he said, go and get him and come back.
Why not?
I said, okay. So I walked downstairs and I'm like, hi. Well, I was coming to hang out, but Ray wants you to come up there. And he's like, hell do you mean Ray wants me to come up there? I'm like, listen, I said I was going to hang out. He said to go get you and bring him back. So he came upstairs with me. And we ended up just hanging out with him until Ray left. They got my husband to do a car bomb for the first time since college. Wow. He just doesn't, he's not a shot guy in the first place, but he performed like a college guy. Did a good job.
I love it.
And we just had the best time. So the next day I get a call early. Why they call me so early every day? Every day. So can you come over to the hotel? We have a couple more things to do. And I'm like, yep. I got home at 1:30 last night. I'm
ready.
Yeah. Let's go. Drank a bunch of water, took a shower, go over there. And the whole time I'm knowing I have to do this voiceover. And I'm thinking like, my voice sounds like hell. We just drank and screamed and partied all night last night. I don't do those things. Maybe once, twice a year. Right. So, and it's usually Gooner Girl. So I go over to the hotel. I'm doing my thing. They're like, hey, Ray's going to come over. He texted me, hey, I'm going to be down in about an hour. I'm like, okay, do we have other things to do for an hour? And they're like, yeah. So Mark and I did some things. And then he comes out a little earlier. He says, I'll meet you at the pool. I'm like, okay. So he comes out and we go over to do the Q&A. And I'm looking at him. He's so like put together and he's just fine. And we do this whole Q&A. And the whole time I'm sitting there like, I know that I'm doing okay visually, but I am hungover.
Right.
I can feel it. And so I have my whole conversation with him. We do the Q&A. We had Arsenal American members send in questions, and I got to do a really fun Q&A with him, which was so fun. But we kept getting hung up on food because we were both starving. And then at the end of it, we finished out, and he just sat back and he looked at me and he said, fancy beer?
Of course he did.
And I was like, yes. Yeah, that would be great, actually. Let's do that.
Got to keep on.
I ended up getting a Bloody Mary instead of a beer because I was thinking of my voice and it has the horseradish in it. And sure enough, cleared my voice right up, went in, did the voiceover. So the voice that you hear on that visually impaired video is me like the day after, and I still managed to rally.
So visually impaired video, but hungover voice.
Luckily, it doesn't show me. It's just you hear me. Yeah, no one wanted to see that. In fact, I showed up that morning. And, the hotel was very used to all of us coming and going. They knew who was supposed to be there, who wasn't. And this door guy couldn't have been more than 19 years old. He was adorable. And he opened the door and I knew that I looked tired. And he said, hey, how are you doing today? And I was like, about like this. And he goes, oh, hope your day gets better then. And I was like, you cheeky bastard. That was so fast. I'm actually really proud of you for how quick you were with that.
I love it. Brilliant. So listen, you got Ray Parlor, right? Yeah. Who's just smashing it, and connecting and making, what a lot of us realize when we do meet these players is he's human. He knows how to have fun, as well as being an invincible legend. You got the owners, you got Vinay, you got Edu, Mikel was very low key. But what I want to know,
I never spoke to Mikel on this tour.
He was like, you know what? He's a beast. He's watching film.
So private. He would come back, he would disappear. Like the only time that I saw, half of the people who were on the technical crew was coming in and off of the bus. Otherwise, they were so focused. This was not a friendly. They were going to kick the pants off of Everton and Chelsea. Like, we're doing this. And so, like obviously a lot of the players were by the pool. But yeah, it was a wild experience. It was very much like living in another universe for just a little while.
And I love this because now what I want to hear is the in-between moments when all of the pro hats went on and you were handling stuff like this. Look at these three, right? So you were involved in the shoots. And by the way, let's be honest, our boy Aston would never have had a decent picture if it wasn't for you. Like, we saw all these pictures on Facebook. It's like blurry. And you're like, no, Aston. When Aston came on the show, Tiffany was like, what? Those pictures? No, I've got you, boy. I've got you. I've got your back.
Like, why are you showing those to people? I have an entire phone full of you. I also have the only picture I've ever seen of Saliba smiling.
Well, hello, here.
That one, but they, so somebody, I don't remember how it happened, but I managed to look up, I was looking at an article about the new kit, and I'm reading this article and there's a picture of me all of a sudden. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? And it's the picture that Stuart took of me and Saliba and Aston. But it was really just this cutesy thing. I was wearing this shirt and they were doing the black and bronze, and it hadn't been released yet. So everything was very much undercover. And they had Saliba's jacket, and one of them handed it to me and said, put this on. So I pulled it on, and Stuart said, no, zip it up. And I'm like, it is 3,000 degrees out here. So I'm in this zipped up jacket. And I'm sure I said something about it coming home with me. And Saliba laughed. We all laughed. And he got that picture then. And so the very next picture, I went to make this like serious face, because all of the pictures that you see, they're all making serious faces. So I'm like, well, I want a serious face picture. I'm going to get one myself. And Stuart goes, no, Tiff. No. Smile.
This is the club photographer, Stu McFarlane, right?
Yes. Yeah. Which, by the way, like, you can show, look, players are great. They're very nice. They're very quiet. They're very sweet boys. You put Stuart in front of me and I was like,
that's the picture, right?
That is Mark's version of it. But Stuart took one that ended up being posted on stuff and just completely surprised me. Because I had absolutely no idea that it was coming. But it was, it was just such good fun. And I'm going to send it to you right now. There it is.
So what were they like? Because one of the things a lot of people have been DMing me about when you get Tiff on, because I shared this picture and I made it the thumbnail. Of course, Marty, calling him Marty, is our captain. You got Emil, who's so shy and seems so shy. And you've got Saliba, who honestly just feels like Mr. GQ. Nothing phases this guy. Tell us a little bit about the crew and, like the guys, like what they were like to be around.
So Saliba's he's wonderful. He's quiet. He's very focused, but he goofs off with the guys. I think it's a unique situation, because if you haven't been around a professional sport team, it's a very closed family. So they sort of let their guard down with each other, but when they're with literally anybody else, it is, it's business. They're on. So they're careful with what they say. I think they've all.
Did you feel that from Odegaard more than Emil? And
I didn't feel that from Odegaard at all.
Really?
At all. He sat down and just started chatting, and we're talking about, he said something about Spain, and I said, oh, Barcelona's my favorite place on earth. And he was like, you love Barcelona. And then it just became this big conversation about Spain and how wonderful it is to just be so relaxed, and how on the flip side of that, unless it's the right time of day, you can't get anything done. And so he just, had this like, because the reason that came up is that I think he was asked something like, where's, your favorite place that you've lived? Of course, everybody wants to hear him say London, but London's a busy, bustling city. There's not a lot of places like Spain, especially the, coastal Spain, where you've got this massive city and you've got all this history, and then you walk 2 blocks and you're on an incredible beach. So yeah, we just connected on that conversation.
Nice.
Emil is as quiet as he seems. He was very quiet. The other guys were all very nice. We had our very nice little keeper and Ben White were out by the pool for a good while. So he didn't come around when I was at the club, or at the hotel, so I didn't get to meet him in person. But when he was doing some of the commercial stuff, just that smile is just infectious. He's a really, he's got a great spirit about him, I think. And then
he's really happy to be at the club.
He does, and I happened to catch that picture, Jesus Take the Wheel, with all the red behind them from the spot where I was sitting, because I wasn't in the corner with the supporters. I was sitting, remember, with the Arsenal people. So we were kind of on the side. So from the side, I had this great vantage point of what was happening with the supporter section. And that's where those pictures came from. And then I, took videos and stuff of them because everything was blowing up red. And then that sign was just right in front of it. And it was just perfect because it was the first goal he'd ever scored for us. And it, it was so fun. One of my longtime favorites at this point is Saka. And I did get to speak with him for a good long time. And he's just hilarious. He's just genuinely, naturally funny and such a kid still. And we're talking about stuff and, like he's my son's age. Look at my boy. He's so cute. And when he smiles, his whole face lights up. And so he didn't understand a whole lot about U.S. supporters. I think some of them were on the tour in 2019. I have pictures with Emil behind me from 2019.
So much younger than, when you
they were babies.
And they still feel like babies in some regards.
They do. Well, they're only, Saka's only 20. Yeah. And so he was like, one of the other Kates who had been on tour with me in 2019 called me over. She said, Tiff, come and tell him. B wants to know about what it's like to watch a match here in the morning. I was explaining that it's many hours behind us, obviously. And
they call him B. They call him B.
And so he was like, what do you just watch it in bed? And I was like, God, no, we go to a pub. I mean, you have days where you watch it in bed, of course. And if your pub's really far away, probably more so than that. But he was like, well, yeah, but you don't drink. Yes, you do drink. And he's like, what? He was literally like, what do you possibly drink at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning? And I was like, you like an iced Irish coffee or a hot Irish coffee? And he's like, okay.
Bloody Mary.
He'd heard of that, right? He'd heard of Bloody Marys. And then I said that one of my personal favorite things to do is to take a shot of cold brew and put it in a Guinness. And he was just like,
you corrupting our Bukai.
I'm sorry, what? First of all, he's not a big beer drinker and he doesn't like coffee. So that one was lost on him. But he's just looking at me like, okay, this woman drinking early in the morning. So I'm like, yeah, well, anyway, it doesn't have to be that way.
He doesn't like coffee. Doesn't like coffee.
Doesn't like coffee. Doesn't like Guinness or beer. I think much. He likes mixed drink.
This is good. This is good for us.
Yeah. You can buy him a mixed drink when he's of age, and he wasn't even of age in the U.S., mind you. But so he was just looking at me like, this is crazy. And I said, okay, but wait a minute. Wait, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 20. And I was like, okay, you're not even old enough to drink this stuff here. So don't judge.
We're both old enough to be his mama as well. That's so cute.
My youngest is 20. My youngest child is 20 years old.
This is what I love, the innocence. There's this innocence to him, but yet he has a maturity about him.
He does. Oh my God, you get him. So he's goofy. He's silly. He's, I think he's whatever they did with him in the beginning, they left him in a good position where he's able to sort of leave that and enjoy himself. But man, when he hits that pitch, he is so focused. I mean, he and Emil both, the technical skills. I mean, those two, like, I would lose my own feet. I would fall on the ground doing, an eighth of what they can do on the pitch. And they're just so good at it, as long as, and I think we saw that with Emil, that building confidence and knowing that, like, this isn't a parlor trick. You can do this professionally. You are doing it professionally. So go and do it.
Yeah.
And once he, had a goal or two under his belt, he was a different person on the pitch. And I think that, we've got a lot of that with Saka too. He lets it roll off of him.
Yeah. Can you tell me, sorry, I was going to,
no, you're good.
We've been talking for 55 minutes already, guys, and it feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes. And this is what I've been wanting to do with Tiff, is the little fly on the wall stuff, the behind the scenes, the little anecdotes, the things that I wanted you to see from her eyes in terms of our club, how everyone operated, the fact that everyone seems happy, everyone's so friendly, engaged, being kind in our community, just super important. One of my favorite things I saw, and I don't know if you were there, Aston talked about it briefly, but because you were looking after the players too, the moment where Rambo just came in, I don't have the picture, but he just came in.
I wasn't there, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. He just came in and sat down innocuously, like nothing was happening.
First of all, let me say he's white as a ghost. Looking at you, like you would be his, his Peter Pan shadow comparatively. He and Ben White. I could
teach him too about getting a tan.
He and Ben White were by the pool at a certain point, and I was like, good Lord, please tell me he is wearing sunscreen. Where Ben White is just like this, look, he looks like I printed him from my fucking computer. He's like, 0.25% body fat and, totally tan and just all smiles and
GQ ready.
Absolutely. But no, you're absolutely right. He came in, he sat down, he mixed in with the people. He just like hid it, just, so sly, but he's very, very down to earth. He's not showy. He's not loud. Talking about Ramsdale. He's not loud. And I think, honestly, when he first came on, I obviously a lot of us had our questions about him, right? He wasn't coming from any team with a good standing. He didn't really show us what he was about, I think, at first. And so I was pretty happy with Leno at that point and not really sure exactly what they were doing, except that there's always somebody gunning for your position. There's always somebody in the wings. There's always somebody ready to take your number one. And so when they finally played him, and I think what we've seen over the last season, from the moment that he got really pissed off on the pitch, I was like, okay, hold on. There's something there. Hold on. There's a fire in there. Because he's otherwise, calm.
Yeah. And this was the moment where he was. This was the moment where he was immortalized. Thanks, Gunner Balls, Jason, for always letting us use your art.
Love it.
The save against Leicester, yeah. But and you're seeing that in the All or Nothing show right now, where he is very humble. His family, super humble, and I loved how he just kind of came in and just sat down like he was.
His dad is the show stealer of that whole show. My husband and I were watching it the other day because the roofers started insanely early on a Saturday, and I'm like, hey, I'm awake, you're awake. Let's watch. And his dad, when his dad came through and was like, fucking starting bloody, and we just died. We really died laughing.
So his dad was on the tour. His dad came with him on the tour.
No. On the All or Nothing.
Oh, on the All or Nothing.
When they showed the episode where he started for the first time, and
and then he was excited when he was on the cover.
Just like going like, oh look, he's on the program, and his dad's just going like, I can't handle this kind of heart attack. With it,
and he had to leave. Yeah.
Totally. Oh, and I love it so much. I love that they're so close. I'm very, very close to my kids and my husband, and so I love to see that, to know that they come from a stable place. And so everything else is auxiliary, you know,
Right.
it's not also this like kind of chaotic life. And then,
Totally.
yeah,
Okay, so there's 200 of you in live chat. Okay, so
at
on a
midnight.
at midnight, a very awkward hour. Listen, we're going to bring Vinny out with his bow tie, even though it's not bow tie Thursday, to hit the likes, please. And Vespa would like you to save a few likes for her too. She's channeling her Ramsdale, seeing as we're talking about Rambo 2.0. Tiff, I have some points and questions for you. Let's get these stuck in before we start. I mean, it's just been amazing.
Just a chat.
It's like we're hanging down the pub. These are I'm thinking Stateside Squad happy hour with Tiff, just like we're hanging down the pub with our mates having a conversation. Lynn says, Tiff.
That's how we saw that we envisioned this years ago, right? That we would have just a freaking happy hour.
It's happening this season. Tiffany, what surprised me at just how big the fan base is in the US and how the fans backed us. It was so great to see, says Lynn.
I think if I can just comment on that really quickly.
Yeah, of course.
If you're unfamiliar with how rabid we are as fans for baseball or our, American football teams, I think you would be less surprised at how insane we can be as far as a fandom. But Arsenal resonates with people. And this isn't just me saying for us, because in my position, I've also been in contact with supporters groups from all over the world. And in fact, a lot of people travel to the US. So whenever people are coming in, like for a tour, I had people contacting from England, contacting from India, from all sorts of these different supporters clubs who were coming over because they'll travel every summer to go and see the Arsenal. And I don't know how else to explain it except that it resonates with people. I think that part of that is that we were the first truly inclusive club in the UK. And I think it has built from there, because for the most part, they may not always be first in the next step toward inclusion, but they're up there. They're pretty early starters. I've gotten a lot more recently for like female supporters. We're getting more support. They've backed gay Gooners. They've done the stand against racism. So I think that it resonates with people, and it does so globally. And in the US, it's difficult, right? Because Americans are very black and white. There's not a lot of gray, and
especially when it comes to sports.
Yes. Sports, politics, you name it. And so I think if you are on the side of things that resonate with people, and you've got a team that's well put together. And I mean, most of us are coming from the Wenger era or before, there's a lot to connect to. And because we're used to being far away from it anyway, especially because when you think about it, our country, state to state is like country to country in Europe. Yeah. So I might be a supporter of, like, my favorite baseball team is the Atlanta Braves. My son's name is named after Greg Maddux. My oldest son's name is Maddux.
He's a great player. I mean, don't let MK hear you say that. She's
I know. Sometimes I can still get away with it because he also went to the Cubs. But anyway, but I have to get on a plane to go to Atlanta, or I'm going to drive for 8 hours. So we're already used to connecting to teams that are not necessarily within our weekly viewing range in person. So I don't think that it's surprising to me that it's Arsenal, because to me, that's the only team that I can fully connect to. Right. But also it's not as surprising because I know how far we go to follow our college allegiances and our NFL and Major League Baseball. So
forget about that.
But I can see where, because of the size of the UK, that's so many people, it's just blowing their minds, and I get it.
So here's a good one for you from Mark. I'm curious to know what you think about this. Did the Kroenkes need to win over the US Arsenal fans as much as the UK fans? Obviously,
maybe more. Maybe more. To be honest with you, Premier League is it's an English game for us, and I won't speak for everybody, but for me, it was weird to have an American come in and take over my English team, because of a couple of different things. For one, people are going to fucking hate that. The board of trustees was all the issues, just everything that went with it was just such a massive thing. And two, Kroenke comes from the Walmart family. He's built his own empire aside from the Walmart family, but the Walmart family for many years put all the small businesses out of business. So there is a history regardless. And his teams here weren't winning. And he wasn't spending a lot of money on them at that time. So I think we were afraid. There's and I'm going to forget who it is, but there's a South African politician that wanted in on it, and I was like all for that.
The Nigerian businessman. Yeah.
And so it made more sense to me. I will say that the last 2 summers have brought me around. Mm-hmm. Now, do I think they could use Kroenke Sports to do more with Arsenal stateside? Absolutely. They have already this business model here. It's mostly based in Denver that hosts these events and sees the teams through and takes care of all of these challenges like Highbury House has. There's no reason that they can't have an Arsenal liaison here. That's more involved with not just the US, but also, Canada, Mexico, South America. There's a lot on this side of the pond. And so I would still like to see them tap into that. But I think as far as what they're doing with the team right now, I'm happy. So,
okay, cool.
I had to go a long way to get there.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
I didn't want them to embarrass me as Americans.
Yeah. And I don't, honestly, on the tours and, in the last transfer window and this one, I think there's a few people, Tiff, who are coming around. And I think Josh has a lot to do with that. And I think when people see Josh having Mikel's back in the all or nothing, especially after the first 3 episodes, we lose the first 3 games, 0 points, 0 goals. And they sat down at that breakfast table. Basically what he was saying to him is, don't worry, I've got your back. We're not firing you. You're not going anywhere. And that's of course after those 3 games where they offered him the new contract, which I think we'll see.
But I think he also pointed out, and I haven't seen all the episodes. I've seen, snippets here and there so far, but I did see a part where he pointed out that you really only need to listen to the opinions of people you trust, and you can count those on one hand. Yes. Something to that effect. And that stuck out to me because it's true. Do I ask people on Facebook what they think of something I should be doing in my family? No. We curate what the outside sees, and we keep our family close. And so I think the fact that he sort of had that mentality change, probably that line alone changed opinions.
Yep, definitely. Okay, so here's one from Runs with Cows. Question for Tiffany. Does Arsenal have more supporters than Manchester United in the US now? Manchester United, the last time they came out here, I'd covered that tour. It was when Mourinho I think it was Mourinho. That was the last time they came out here when he was the manager. They definitely have. Look, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, they're the 3 biggest clubs. Chelsea, City making tracks. What's your take on it, Tiff?
I would agree with that. I was I think when I spent time in Ireland, I was most surprised at how many Man United fans were.
Yeah, they love the Irish. Love United. That's from Georgie Best. Comes from Georgie Best way back in the day.
Yeah. Well, and I got an understanding of that real fast. But and we just happened to connect with this lovely rugby family while we were there, and it turns out they're quite famous. So we ended up having this big introduction to rugby while we were there as well. But anyway, here I would say it's very difficult for me to get a count on that because the US is so big. In New Orleans, it used to be that Arsenal and Liverpool were the 2 biggest in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. Chelsea has a decent following here. Man City's got a small one. Man United has a pretty big group. It just depends on the match. But we're always there. And so the previous owners were this lovely Irish couple, Northern Ireland. And please don't tell them I called them regular Irish. He's a big Celtic fan, huge Celtic fan. In fact, when New Orleans flooded, like Celtic sent him things to put up in the pub. And so he was always very middle of the road and sort of kept the atmosphere wide open. Our current owner, who's another Irishman, and he's from Dublin, is an Arsenal supporter. So we've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
In fact, Sean and I were in Florida, and Pauline, the previous owner, called me and she said, listen, and she doesn't call, she texts. And she called me and she said, listen, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, who's sick? Sean and I are laying in bed. It's still early. And she says, we've sold the pub. And I'm like, what? And she said, we've sold it to Sean Kennedy. Sean jumped out of the bed and ran back and forth through the hotel room. It's an Arsenal pub. It's a fucking Arsenal pub. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's just not, she can hear this whole thing on the phone. So I think it's funny because a lot of places do have their, if you go to London, like you don't go into an Arsenal pub wearing away colors. Here, some of us have mixed pubs. So it can be really hard to tell. It's easier for me to tell, but a lot of places here do still have like specifically Arsenal pubs, and you can't wear away colors in, and they follow all the rules. So I don't know if they would even know how many supporters there are for other teams. I will say that if you look at the crowds in Baltimore, Everton was pretty embarrassing. In Orlando, if Chelsea were to be believed, then the crowds would have looked purple because of red and blue. And let me tell you something, that stadium was red.
I got Baltimore in the background here.
So to have that many people come out in Orlando was just amazing. And I think that was one thing that the club didn't understand too, is that when you say we're playing in this place or that, literally they asked me if I was driving down to Florida from Baltimore. And I was like, no, it's like 6 states away. I have to fly home, work for 3 days, and then I'm flying to Orlando to meet you there. Just no concept of how big it is here. And so we, when they set up something to say like, hey, we're going to do this summer tour and we're going to let them know in June, I'm on the other end going, absolutely not. Pull it back. Tell them in April. Tell them in May. I know that there are contracts. I know that there are reasons. That's the Orlando group. They're so good. I know that there are reasons that you can't go forward with a whole lot of information. However, this is people's entire summer holiday. They are going to plan a family vacation. They're going to go to the parks. They're going to see Arsenal. This is going to be a game changer. This is going to blow their minds. You have to give them the opportunity to do that planning. Yeah. So anyway.
That's crazy. No, great. Listen, I think I'm going to change the title of this show to Happy Hour with Tiff and Soph,
I'm in.
Because
I like it.
It's too special. I'm going to put up a couple of comments before I get to questions for you. I know you love this fella. Tiff is the best of the best,
great.
Amazing work as ever. Proud to be your colleague with Arsenal America, and prouder still to be your friend. Your rope is now a bungee. Listen, he's not in chat, but if I call Stephen, no Laguna, right, your other buddy, we can have this T-shirt done tomorrow and on the site, and we can raise a ton of money for Gooners v Cancer.
It could be, happy hour. Your rope is now a bungee.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is going to be a thing, you guys. It's going to be a thing. Amira wanted to say this to you too. Even Sambi said on a podcast that he knew Arsenal was big, but didn't understand just how big until they went to the United States and he saw all the fans' amazing support. I don't know if you saw that clip even when Xhaka, who's traveled everywhere with Switzerland, and with Arsenal over the years, he was even like, he goes, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. He was amazed at this.
Well, and that, to me, that right there will give you the dichotomy between the two tours that we were talking about before, because I met Xhaka on that tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kept very separate. And these events that we held were very formal. And so unless they were some of the staff that were invited to come up on the stage, they weren't involved in this intermingling with supporters. The way that we did it this time, which thank God, I had quite a lot of pull, and they said, what do you want us to know? And I said, involve people, get us out there. Granted, look, if I go to an NFL game, I don't expect to meet the players. I don't want to know what hotel they're staying in. And there were questions that I got that bordered on, I don't know that any of us should have that information. But because my email was insane for 2 months.
Get me this. Tiff.
Oh, God. Where can I see them? Where can I find them? What hotel are they staying at? What flight are they on? Is this the right flight path? And I'm like, okay. So I have a high security badge for the airport. And I know for a fact that no one who works for an airport can tell you that without losing that badge. So
what's the tail number?
Oh my God. They knew it. They knew it, Sophie.
They know everything.
So they know everything. There's a way. Oh man. So it is a little bit strange because you do want to give everybody as much access as you can, with the understanding that your sponsors buy their time. So there were a lot of events that were Adidas. Sorry, Adidas does not exist in my
Adidas. Right. Adidas. Like Nike. Let me say Nike.
What?
Not Nike.
That's not a thing. That's not a real thing.
Listen, in the 80s, when I was growing up, it was Nike.
I've never heard that before in my life.
Are you serious?
I've never heard that before. No. Are you serious?
I need one of my Brits in chat right now to back me up. In the
Somebody
80s,
tell me if this is true.
Nike. It was never Nike for us. I want my new Nike trainers. And I always used to get the white ones with the red tick, of course.
Yeah, you did.
White and red. But it was Nike. Yeah. Thank you, Don One.
He said Nike. There's a big E on that. There's a big E there.
That's an error.
So anyway, so Adidas buys this time, and that means that like they can get the supporters to, I see, okay, AJ. They can get the players to come out to their retail locations and do signings there. And that way they can sell shirts and they can charge admissions and whatever. Now, when those things are happening, that's the whole sponsor side of Highbury House. And most of us wouldn't even know about it. And also because we had such a big job with planning the events that we were able to plan, that we didn't know all of these things. So I would get stuff that would be like, you said there were no players, but I just watched all of the media go and do a 5-a-side with them. And I'm like, that's media and Adidas. I'm giving you everything I have.
Yeah,
so
you can't, there's nothing you can do about that.
No, because whether I like it or not, I don't actually have Mikkel's phone number. I don't like it. But so we do what we have to, right? We got as much access as we could. And I thought that was amazing. And I completely forgot where this question was going.
I love it though. There's a whole Nike thing going on in chat right now as well, which is hilarious. Right. You're listening, of course, to the Highbury Squad. We've got Tiffany Campo here, board member and events guru at Arsenal America. She's the founder of Gooner Gals. It's a fantastic group. I'm part of it on Facebook. You can
Lee
also follow them
Skywalker.
on
I
Twitter.
am a New Orleans Saints fan.
Oh, you're reading ahead. Tiff.
I'm sorry.
I'm one step ahead. Where's
right
Lee
back.
Skywalker?
I don't know. He was in chat.
No, I've been to Skywalker Ranch. Tiffany, what NFL team do you support? I follow them online.
I want to know how I turned all Run DMC on.
I'm a Bronco, by the way, and we're going to smash it this year with Russell Wilson. Deion Sanders, he was quite the man, definitely.
Wow.
All right, I've got a couple others here for you before we duck out, although we could go on forever. We could see.
Yeah, this is fun.
Gunner Ola, sorry, not right. Gunner Ola, absolutely deserved. Tiffany's the most amazing, passionate, and loving Arsenal fan. Made me feel so much at home and welcomed at my first Gooner Gra in Nola. That's lovely.
Thank you.
Absolutely love that. Mark coming in with one more, and I had to put this up because can you see a day where there's an Arsenal game or a Premier League game played in the US, much like the NFL going to the UK, Tiff?
I'm not ready.
You're not ready for that one?
I'm not ready. I think it would be amazing, but I think logistically it doesn't make a lot of sense with their schedules to have to do a 5-hour time change. So
I don't know if the football
I'm
world
on a never say never right now,
gonna happen.
because I think that we're on a full steam ahead situation. So
I mean, they're talking about maybe in the near future, some people, Wenger is part of this whole kind of new wave, no throw-ins and all this stuff, the way they want to revolutionize the game. I don't want to Americanize the game because it's just beautiful as it is. But, some folks are even talking about how there's no starting 11. You just have everyone on the bench and it's like NFL football. Like who's in, you can sub at any time, in and out, in and out. I don't
what
think
that banner would look like.
I'm not ready for that.
Graphically, I don't like it.
No,
The
I'm not
visuals
ready
are
for
bad.
that.
Also because they earn that spot. They earn that spot throughout the week, coming up on the next match. They earn that
Yeah.
spot on the pitch. And I wouldn't want it. I think we know who's starting, because they earn that sort of forward position. But I don't think with NFL, it doesn't change from week to week the way that it does. Like if someone's injured, that's how they're not playing. Where here in London, it's earned week in and week out. Everything can change in a week.
Are you going to go
So-
to a
and I
game?
prefer that.
Are you going to a game this season? I know that you guys had to stop the trips because of the pandemic, of course. But what's the plan of the Arsenal
Unfortunately,
America
because I do have a real job as well. I can't just I gotta get rid of that one. I can't just up and go. Unfortunately, I did get a many years of education to have this job, so it seems like it would be quite a waste. But it's not nearly as
off
much
that
fun.
student debt.
Not nearly as much fun as this. I am going to the match on April 1st. Arsenal America is doing the Arsenal America road trip. And so we will be going, it's generally a Thursday through Sunday. And it's not very expensive. It's, usually less than $100 to join the tour part of it. And then you obviously need tickets to the match as well, but you can get those through Arsenal America. And then, what
April. Who are we playing in April? Let me get the schedule up. Do you know what games they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. She says, yeah. This is radio, guys. This is a radio show. We got Leeds. Oh, we got Liverpool.
Leeds. April 1st. Leeds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. April.
So we are going, we're going the Thursday. So what generally happens is I'm very sad because my beloved Highbury is that one's no longer there. But we've done everything. We've done everything from Gunner's Pub to the Tollington, 12 Pins, Bank of Friendship.
You guys have done it.
The Barnyard. That was a one-stop thing. I don't remember. I don't think they were ready for us.
A few of our boys have been banned from the 12 Pins, by the way. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but let's just say, like, there's been a few of them that have been banned. You guys have done it all.
Is that the only way that Kevin gets any peace? He pops into the
Kevin's
12
still
pins,
allowed
he
at the
knows
12
no one can
pins.
be there. No, I'm saying because no one else can come now.
Exactly.
We did last tour. We did this really fun pub crawl in the East End, which was all really old, spooky pubs on the Thames, and it was really fun.
Wasn't the Jack the Ripper one, was it?
Yes, that was one of them. That was one of them. And then there was like one that was like a pirate place with like a noose. I'm not going to remember any of these places, but they were a lot of fun. And then,
sounds pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, it was if you were drinking and not hanging from a noose, but supposedly haunted, all those good things. And then there's pictures of me like trying not to fall in the Thames because I'm not a graceful person. But the Tollington's always been really supportive. It doesn't get as rowdy at that one, but they have that's also a lovely place where all the women have always grouped together. So they have a plaque hanging in there that they are the official stop in London for Gooner Gals.
Nice.
Sean's really sweet. Everybody there that really takes good care of us. And then what we do is we have a fundraiser at the Arsenal Supporters Clubhouse, and we bring a bunch of items for a raffle. Highbury House usually gives us, Mark Brindle specifically usually gives me some goodies for that, even some from his personal collection. He collects programs, and the man has got almost every one ever.
That's unreal.
So when he has like duplicates, he gives me them. I'm not getting any of his precious verse, but when
He loves you. He loves you guys. You guys.
Yeah.
Let me say,
He's good.
We're going to start closing out here a little bit, you guys. We've been on air for an hour and a half, but I love it. I'm thinking, Tiff, I know you're a busy woman. You've got a lot of stuff going on. But the people want to hear more. The people want more of this. They're loving the happy hour, chilling, just like talking, non-transfers, non-game day, non-tactics. This is what we do at Squad Central. You know it.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark, the Arsenal America group stood up for Mark. And at a time where the club were making very drastic changes, and understandably in a time where we were all challenged, you guys really stepped up. And he loves you. You guys love him. He's a very special person, but you guys are very special people. The Arsenal America group is very special, but you in particular, Magic Mike, a lot of you were like, no. We cannot do this type of
Honestly,
stuff.
I was just so disappointed in the team that somebody as important to me as him, and just as ingrained in Arsenal, such a passionate employee and supporter, was even made to go through the redundancy process. Mm-hmm. And basically I got pissed off and made a stink. And a lot of other people did too. And then before we knew it, Arsenal put out a statement like, we're not letting go of Mark Brindle. Please don't panic. And I'm like, you don't panic. I will be there. Do not get rid of him. Like, he's, that's our contact. That's our person. And, what does that say to your supporters if the person you're letting go is the one with the best relationships with your supporters? Mm-hmm. So, they backtracked on that one. That was such a hard time for everybody.
Yeah, no, but you guys, honestly, this is what life's all about, is standing for what you believe in and for people. And everyone needs to know Mark Brindle is a very special person who's associated with the club and has, great relationships. He makes things tick and work for groups like Arsenal America. And these guys really stood up for him. And I think that was probably, for me, one of the most special things that's happened that I've seen in a long time at our club. And, the same thing with Gunnosaurus. And I mean, look, you've got to stand up for what you believe in. But, we're talking about someone who has been part of the club for a long time, livelihood, and it's not easy. And you guys put your necks out, and to see now and to see this tour, wow. Was that was, I mean, honestly, like every single minute.
That would have been a huge loss for me as a supporter coordinator to not have that relationship. And he, that means a great deal to him. Mark and I are on WhatsApp almost every day. We know what's happening with each other's families. Like, he's just a genuinely lovely person. There was a position that popped up with the club that was very directly linked to what I do professionally and there. Yeah. And I said, how dare they put out a position when I am not in the UK yet? Can they do it remote? And he said, pretty sure you'd have to immigrate, but I'll have a free room in September.
Nice. Amazing. Oh my God, this has been amazing. Absolutely brilliant. What do you want to leave the crew with? So
we can't not talk about football, right? So
so let's get your take on what's happening football-wise before we duck out.
First of all, hallelujah on the start of this season. Look, I had to work as well, so I'm having to keep up with this. I get off work, I go down to the pub. My husband's tanked. He's been there for like 5 hours at this point. He's as happy as he's ever been. Our whole crew is still there because
just call me honey.
Right. Hi, dearest. Because they don't kick us, they might kick you out of the stadium, but they don't kick us out of a pub. So when we have a win, it can be everybody goes to dinner together that night. Like, that's why we say our communities are our families, because this is a big piece of it. But God, what a pretty game. And just, I feel like technically things they've come together so well. I think we saw a lot of it. We really fought our way back last year. A couple of stumbles, but for the better half of 3/4 of the season, we were fighting. And I think that laid bare the positions that needed some help, because the other positions were working. So I think that when you have a situation where everything's kind of a scramble and your positions aren't working, it's hard to tell what's wrong. And it's easy to place the blame on one or two people, but that's not what's happening. And so when it's more evident that there's one or two positions that are off, that's where you want to be. You want to know that technically everything else is working. So it is a big red marker where those positions are lacking. And I think that they made some changes for that over the summer. And I think, I'm very happy with where we're going. I have
a few people
very
are asking
high hopes.
A few people are asking who your favorite player is. They want to know. They want to know that, like, if there's any of the new guys or the current guys. But there's no doubt, like, I hope it continues. It's early doors yet, but we look.
It
much
really
better
is. I've loved Saka for a long time. I love Odegaard. I love Odegaard. That man is where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, and I just appreciate that. I think we have the best keeper in the league. I don't know. It's so hard. I just like them so much. Look at him.
There's your other boy.
There he is.
Look at this angel.
Martinelli. Look at him.
These two together are cute.
So okay, there you go. I have the Scotsman he has a special place in my heart. Anybody who's close to their mom, right? So
these two are just like, I love these two.
They, to me, are our untouchables. Ben White's finding his form. And Jesus speaks for himself. He's, come on.
I have this Tiff. He's at the table with his disciples. I have to credit who did this. I can't remember, and I have to find out. I do apologize, but
that's hilarious.
Isn't that just absolutely brilliant? Look at Marty.
So, and I'm not going to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it, but to the right of Fabio
Vieira.
I butcher his first name every time, but he's I think we've got some wild cards. I think we've got some people that we're going to see some really exciting things from this season, and I am here for it.
Yeah, me too.
So I think, they made some great, I hate to say purchases because they're people
signings,
some great signings. Yeah, thanks. Some great contracts, this summer, and I'm just excited. I'm so excited that I'm hesitant to even say like predictions.
Yeah, don't. Oh, well, actually, do you want to give us your predictions before you go? Where do you think we'll finish in the league? Or are you not ready to do that? You want to do that on the next show?
Oh, no, I'll do it. Because it could change, right?
Did you just pull out a notepad and a pen?
No. Actually, funny story. We had a Home Depot card, and they made it Sean.
Oh my God, Gabrielle.
And so I keep telling my husband that that's his football name. So it was Sean instead of his name, which was bizarre anyway. That just fell out from underneath my laptop. I think easily top 4. I think second, and I'm pretty scared to say that, right? Like that's I think high top 4. I'll say that.
Okay, that's good. By the way, the meme you put out on Gooner Gals today was hilarious. I sent it to Tom Canton and he couldn't stop laughing. Was when the guy says to the woman, "Name me 3 Arsenal players."
Gabrielle.
Gabby.
That was my favorite from the daily things that Fremy did. That one was I laughed so freaking hard. And then they released the extended piece of it, and it was my interview on the back half. And I didn't even care that I thought I looked horrible or that it was awkward to be on camera for that.
Where is your interview that you did with
It's on the Gabby video.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's like the 5th minute or something. And all I cared about was that I was in the Gabby video.
So brilliant. I mean, seriously, I just can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of these.
Oh, Fremmy's like my new BFF, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in there too. There is not, to me, a better representative. Fremy.
Which one? Which Gabby?
No, Fremy.
Oh, Fremy. Oh, well, you and with the interview, you did Fremy. You interviewed Fremy as well, didn't you? You guys did a whole thing together.
Yeah. And I mean, he is excellent. He is the most down-to-earth person. He is so like, feels so privileged to be there, but he's so funny. And so at a certain point at the end, they said, okay, so we need to get some snippets of you, just your face, so we can blend them in. So I'm like, okay. So I'm talking, and then he starts saying, and they're looking at him, they're going, don't talk. We're just focusing on your face. And so when they got to me, I had gotten all this criticism from what they were telling him, right? So he starts talking, and he is just spitting jokes. And I'm like, we get to the end, and they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And he goes, fucking hell, I didn't think I was funny anymore. So and I was like, all those years have finally paid off.
He just couldn't believe he was on the plane with them, the whole vibe, these whole kind of, and I think
so
this
that
is
was my question. I was like, who gets the good seats? That was what I really wanted to. Let me ask the people's questions here. Saka, who gets the good seats on the plane? Is it just, starting 11, the top 15 people? And he's like, oh, any player. And I was like, so if you have 7 figures, you're in first class. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, so Fremy just has to sneak up from the back if he wants to talk to you. That's what you're telling me right now.
So it's kind of like the press corps. They're way at the back, right? Like on Air Force One.
I was having like West Wing visions, right? like, Mikel has his office, and then all the players are in first class, and the rest of them are just like, excuse me, sir. They have another.
Love it. This has been absolutely epic, you guys. You stuck with us, all 200 of you. I wasn't expecting so many of you to be in live chat.
Cheers to
hour,
everybody.
But we've had a lot of our folks here in the US as well. And if Tiff is willing, wow, that was impressive. Wow.
It's over now.
Is that
the drink's done?
Is that a bourbon?
That was a bourbon. Yeah.
Very Nola style.
I love me some bourbons. We can have bourbon conversations.
Okay, so maybe we'll create a, it's Stateside Squad, but it's maybe bourbon happy hour
channels.
Will you come back for another?
We're gonna
session?
Need a Discord. I am here whenever you need me. Weekly,
okay,
2 weekly,
perfect.
Monthly. What
Absolutely,
do we want?
Everyone's loving it. It's brilliant. I love talking football with you. I love just talking with you because it feels like we've been down the pub, just chit-chatting. Thanks for sharing your fly on the wall experiences with us. If you could send one message to the Arsenal universe tonight, Tiff, for the season, what would your message be? Wait, are you from one now?
I just went like, what the hell? Where did that cut? That was left field.
I'm always going to throw in one of those on you.
I would say this is the first time that I've been able to say, trust the process, and absolutely mean it. I stick to as far as coordination and appreciation between the team and the supporters. I stick to what I said, even though it's now a cliche already. Your rope is now a bungee. There's a lot more interest. There's a lot more give and take. They're hearing us. It's very nice to be able to speak to somebody from the inside and know that like Arsenal America had some sort of program about something and they knew about it. So I would say there are, from a supporters level, There are groups all over the US. Get involved in your supporters groups, like the actual group, because that's going to get you access to ticketing. That's going to get you into these events. That's going to get there are people, you know, other groups have people like me who just really want to provide access and connect with all of you. We have events all over the US. I have to leave you with that. In this next month, there is Virginia is for Gooners instead of Virginia's for lovers. There's a big event in Virginia. There's a big event the weekend of September 23rd in Texas. The Texas Roundup is chaotic fun. Everybody loves about that, everything about that. That one's going to be in El Paso this year, so they rotate around the big Texas cities. And then Gooner Gals will be in February, and you know, I'm going to do my very best to see if we can get some Arsenal commitments for that. So nice. I think we've got an odd year coming up, right? Because we've got World Cup in the middle of it. Awkward. So, you know, stick with us.
Awesome. Listen, you can follow Tiff here. You've been seeing it on screen at Nola Ask Gal, at Gooner Gals. Of course, follow the Arsenal America group. If you're an Arsenal fan and you're looking to connect with the community, just go to arsenalamerica.com, check it out. There is a club, there is a branch in your area. Trust me, there is a branch pretty much everywhere in this country. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Our first Stateside Squad episode of the season. We're going to rock it. Thanks to our partners at Zenith Coins. You'll see some special stuff we're going to bring you from Zenith this season. I've got my coin right here. Of course, we're going to be giving some away. And let's just say that maybe I'm planning a little something special for the Arsenal America kids. I mean,
can I get some coins?
Yes.
Can a girl get some coins?
Absolutely. I can get you some coins. In the meantime, everyone, thanks to Super Kev as well for his special message for Tiff. We will see you guys live. Just keep on listening to check us out on our community page on YouTube. The next live show will be announced there. And of course on Twitter. Until then, people, we love you and we'll see you next time. As Kev would say, at ease, everyone.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
The Highbury Squad is powered by Zenith Coins. Support the future, treasure the past. Official licence partner of the Arsenal Football Club. Follow at Zenith